Welcome. Happy Easter, everyone. So nice to be with you all. Yes, I'm sure I do all my announcements. There's an upcoming retreat, July 10th through the 15th at the Kripalu Institute. There's details on my website about that. I'm going to try to do another day-long retreat in May or June, just depending upon how my schedule goes with my move and everything. So just stay tuned for that. You can always look on Facebook, and that's the quickest place, or the first place I'll post it, and then my website. Okay, I invite you all to close your eyes. We'll begin by feeling into our body. And just reflecting on the meaning of Easter, on the energy of springtime. And so many of us in this life, we've been through untold suffering. There's terrible, horrific amounts of suffering and pain. And Easter is a reminder that one day this suffering comes to an end. That one day the sun shines brightly upon us. And that the path does not end in hell, but rather ends in new life. And whether that's non-dual, spiritual awakening, or liberation from pain and karma, it's the end of a physical ailment or struggle with mental illness or whatever it is, or addiction, the suffering has a beginning and an end. And so as you feel into your human heart, do you know this basic truth? That there is a beginning and end to all suffering. Do you know this? Do you have faith in this? Is there hope? A sense of light at the end of the tunnel? Or do you live under one of the primary illusions of ego, which is the thought, the belief that suffering has no end? And so I invite you to feel into yourself and to be radically honest. Is your heart filled with hope and trust and knowingness, good knowingness that there is an end to suffering? There is, of course. You have faith in yourself and your own divinity and the path before you, the choices and decisions you're making. Are you living in alignment with that which is greater? Or has suffering got you stuck in the mud? And if it has, that's okay. Let us have compassion for that part of you. For compassion is one of the vehicles, doorways, that gets us out of the mud. And so if any of you have studied Christianity and the stations of the cross. And the stations of the cross, if you go into any cathedral, they should have them when you walk. On the sides of the wall as you walk up toward the front of the church. There's these 12 stations where it shows Jesus. Initially picking up the cross, and beginning to carry it, and falling down, and being whipped and beaten and spit upon. And he gets up again. And he walks a little further. And again, he falls. And for many of us, we think this is all the path is, this is all this world is we just come here to get beat up, and then we get up, and then we fall again. But Christ gets up again and again and again, and continues to walk forward, carrying this burden. And eventually, at the end of the story, he awakens in heaven. In heaven, he faces his own death, his own humanity, with humility and openness. And this is what's required on the spiritual path, to face our life, to face the death of delusion, the death of suffering, with humility and openness. And so I ask you, do you have faith? Do you know the direct energy and the lightness of being, of hope and renewed life? Do you know the energies of springtime? Flowers are blooming again after the death and the destruction of fall and winter, the coldness of winter. Do you know springtime within your heart, within your hara? Are you rooted in your divinity and deeply connected? Or are you enslaved to the thoughts and the beliefs of ego? And if you are, again, I invite you to see you have a choice here. To continue forward, to continue letting go and surrendering, to continue showing up with sincerity, calling forth the energies of the divine. Sometimes that's all we have as a prayer. God, will you come here and do this in me and through me? Give me the strength, Lord. Give me the strength to surrender more fully, to open more fully. Give me the strength. And so, you can open your eyes if you haven't already. I've always found it quite useful to really sit with some questions deeply. And sometimes I'll just see the word hope. I can remember when I was young and I saw the word hope, and do I know what that means directly? So as a good Buddhist, I was told that hope was some kind of bad thing. But I think the way the Buddhists use the word hope and the way Christians use the word hope are two different things. I like the positive meaning of hope. It's real similar to the way the Buddha taught about knowing and experiencing your innate goodness, having faith in your innate goodness, what you are as a divine being. A divine being. Do you know this in your heart of hearts? Do you know this in your human self? Sometimes you really know it in your divine self, but you don't know it in your human self. And the human self is where the rubber meets the road, where all the suffering is. And so there's a number of questions people emailed in. And so let me see if I can pull those up. But if any of you go to church, go to Mass, the whole Lenten season it's like a terrible season because it's just all about all the suffering of life and all the struggle and giving up things. And, some people just take it on a surface level, like giving up meat or something. And I don't think they even give up meat. They just eat fish instead and just on Friday, but that's a silly thing. But there can be a quality of real renunciation during Lent, and we're supposed to reflect on the suffering of Christ. But most of us, we don't need to reflect on Christ's suffering. We need to reflect on our own suffering. I've been spending a lot of time just reflecting on my own suffering. Having a human body and being a parent in this world, and all that I've been through, and it gets a little bit bonkers. All the pain a human being can go through. And it can be good to reflect upon it and see, does this suffering, has it painted my picture of reality? Has it veiled me fully and completely? Am I able to lift off the blanket of suffering, this veil, and see clearly? Am I able to see a little bit clearly? Just a little bit clearly. Because when we're in physical pain, when we're in mental pain, emotional pain, when we are, in some foreign land or we're far from home, these veils can really color our vision. Color our vision. Sometimes it's just simply wintertime that colors our vision. And I can say that it's one of the things that veils my consciousness is when I get too cold in my bones, and the body starts to get grumpy, and I stop seeing the beauty of the world, at least temporarily. When the sun comes out and feel that warm sun on my face and on my chest, I feel such hope and such joy and aliveness. Some people love winter, but so it's important to really look, like, what are the things that veil your consciousness, distort your view of what is true? What are those things? And can you bring them into the light and begin to work with them? Pop those bubbles of delusion. For some people, it's actually this season right now, spring, because the allergies come out. I was I actually had a break in my schedule today, which I was so happy about. And we all went to the hot springs today, and I was just staring up at these big ponderosa pines, and I was seeing these pillows of smoke coming out of the trees. I said, "Oh my God, is there a forest fire right here?" And then I started to feel a little bit of like angst about there being a forest fire. And then when I looked more closely, I saw it was clouds and clouds of pollen dust that were just being released from the trees. And so then I smiled. Okay, no fires, just pollen. Some people see that pollen and it creates a panic attack within them because they can't breathe. And so what are the veils? What are the things that veil your consciousness? Can you meet them with love, with clarity? And do you know that this too shall pass? One of the main stories of ego is this suffering will go on forever, forever and ever and ever and ever. The ego gets so much energy out of that thought that this suffering will go on forever. Sometimes we make the craziest decisions in life, the most impulsive, because we can't sit still for another 5 minutes and just let the darn thing pass. And just let the thing pass. And with springtime, we are reminded with the changing of seasons that yes, winter has an end. And after the innocence of spring, we see, oh, spring has an end. The heat of summer, and we get some relief in fall. And we move into the death of wintertime, where everything is just stripped down to its core. We humans, we live so much time inside that we forget about these things. It's these natural laws of nature and the teachings of nature. Okay, so a couple questions here. Hi, Craig. This is from Ellie. How to commit to the path? It's an interesting question. How to commit to the path? I think a great question is, why would you not commit to the path? What are you doing instead? Like all of us are committed to some path, whether it's the path of ego, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but just most of us are committed to the path of ego. And that's often a path of relationship and finding love and looking outside of you so that your needs are met. Sometimes it's the path of career, where you want to offer this type of expression. Maybe you think, like I met someone today, and he was a realtor, and he told me, he was a young guy, and he told me he owned like 25 properties or something ridiculous, like millions of dollars of property. And I thought, wow, like that's impressive. And so there was something within him that committed to this path of growing in financial abundance. And I don't really see the human path as separate from the spiritual path. It all depends upon your attitude, but all of us will be committed to a path, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. It's either conscious path that you choose in alignment with the goodness of your heart, the truth of your heart, or we're committed to the unconscious path, which is, well, something else is leading us. Like when I was a little kid, consciously, I was actually committed to the spiritual path as a little boy. I remember that. I just know it. Like I came in with that commitment, that connection. It just, it was this basic thing. It wasn't even a choice, but it was kind of like, do you like light, Craig? It's like, oh yeah, I like light. Okay. This is the way. Or do you like, playing in the dirt? And look, as a little boy, I also liked playing in the dirt. And that was more of just an unconscious thing. That was just like the archetypal nature of me being a little boy as I played in the dirt with my friends, that we played in the woods. And I grew up in an army family. So we wore camo every day of the week if we could. Made guns out of sticks and chased each other and shot each other with our toy guns. But again, like it was kind of unconscious. It was my older brother taught me to be that, and my father taught me to be that. And when I was 14 years old, my brother, he had already joined the army. He joined when he was 17, and I really looked up to him. And he used to take me to the military recruiter like a couple times a month and talk with the recruiter, and I could just feel like this pull into this path. And it seemed right in an unconscious way, just like this pulling me into this thing. But there was this other pull within me, this different pull. A pull towards divinity, toward a path of holiness. And with the recruiter, I had all this peer pressure and pressure from my family and brother and all my friends too. Like we were all gearing up to be soldiers. We were all just into that. But there was just this quiet thing within me that said, this is not the way. And so as we commit to the path, we have to listen to this quiet voice within us, which is different than an unconscious voice, an unconscious pull. And so this is a great question for inquiry, how to commit to the path. Like you are already committed, everyone. And so it's really a question of, am I awake? Do I know which path I'm actually committed to? Do I actually know? I can remember my senior year in high school. My mother, she signed me up for this university, and it was the wrong place for me to go. She signed me up. She just said, well, it's a good school and I want you to go there. I had really good grades, so I got a scholarship. And again, I think she just filled out all the paperwork and did everything and signed me up for this. And again, there was just something in me that's just like, no, like this isn't the truth. My truth at that time was, my conscious truth was I wanted to follow the Grateful Dead. And what the Grateful Dead did for me, I mean, it sounds silly, but they opened me to a new world, a new realm, where anything was possible. I grew up like out in the country in Ohio, and at least part of the time. And everyone liked football, and they liked going to a big college, and you drink beer and you party, and that would be the thing you do. And then you'd go become an accountant or a lawyer or something and join a fraternity or whatever, however that journey works. And the first time I stepped on the lot with the Grateful Dead, it was like it brought the wildness of Woodstock, is this traveling circus to the first place I saw him was Columbus, Ohio. And literally within 3 minutes of stepping onto the lot, I was offered LSD, mushrooms, marijuana, icy cold imports. Was what they used to call them. And I saw two naked people going at it just right there. And it just blew my mind. And there's people with dreadlocks and drum circles and all kinds of new smells and things that I didn't know were possible. And and music and Rasta people. And I just saw, oh, there's a different way to live. A different way to live. Another way. And of course, like the hippie way isn't the ultimate way, but it just showed like it was really good at breaking down lots of walls. So it's good to go into some new environments every now and then and have your normal egoic habitual walls broken down. And it just showed me there's all kinds of different ways you can live. And to see this at age 14, like when I was 13, I thought, well, the way to live is you join the army and then you go to college and then you buy a house in the suburbs or in the country or something. And I met the traveling circus, and the traveling circus showed me all kinds of wild things. And again, it wasn't like these were such divine or holy things. They just showed there's all different possibilities. And I saw young kids who were in, old VW buses who traveled from California to Ohio following this band, and they're going to continue following them. Oh, I can jump in this river and I can explore the world. And then, of course, by the age 18, I had met my spiritual teacher and I knew what my life was about, but it was through this willingness to explore. And so for many of us, like in order to commit to a path, we have to go out and explore a little bit and see what resonates, what makes my heart light up. And there's a funny thing, when you find something that resonates, it actually grabs a hold of you. You might think you're resonating with it, but your path actually chooses you. Chooses you. Sometimes we don't see this till we're really mature along the path. We think that we're in charge and we choose, but your path will choose you. And I don't want you to think you're powerless in that. It'll be the best thing for you. And so commitment to the best thing for you should be really easy for anyone. Like if you're conscious and awake, you're like, oh yeah, of course this is the way. Of course it is. Of course. Of course. Now, sometimes when we're new to the path, and if we have an addiction to a substance, or we're addicted to drama, or we're addicted to money or chasing things that don't serve us, like sometimes it takes a little time to straighten ourselves out. But normally if you give yourself permission, like say, for example, to chase addiction or to get swallowed up in addiction, you begin to suffer. And after, a couple seasons or nights of suffering, for me, it only took a couple nights with, with alcohol and drugs. It's just like, okay, like this, this isn't really doing anything. It doesn't really do anything. It's not the ultimate. And so do you learn quickly? And when you learn quickly, again, it's very easy to commit to your path. When you're stubborn, and it can be a little bit more difficult. And so a great question is, well, what gets in the way for you? Like what is veiling you from committing? Because when you truly commit to the path, everything becomes easier. You know what your life is about. You know what direction you're walking. There's meaning, there's purpose. There's a sense of relief and freedom. Some people have actually told me, though, they like to be blissfully ignorant, just chasing the egoic games and saying, I don't want to be on this path. I don't want to meditate. I don't want to do yoga. And we have to remember, meditation is and yoga is simply a form of resting, of letting go, of connecting to your joy and your radiance and your divinity. It's not a struggle. The thing that struggles is our egoic resistance and wanting to maintain control, fighting against reality. That's a struggle. That's the struggle. So how to commit to a path? It's through listening to your heart. And so again, normally it starts with exploring a little bit. Like not everyone, I realize, was as fortunate as me, where my first spiritual teacher was my last spiritual teacher. It was just really simple. I understand not everyone has it as simple as I did. But see, I knew what I wanted. And so when you know what you want, the commitment is easy. When you don't know what you want, well, it's really hard to commit because your mind is divided. And so it's important to get really clear. And it can be helpful to spend some time in silence, alone in nature. I love going to the desert. When you go out to the desert, you get really clear what your life is about, who you are. If you climb on top of a mountain or stand on the edge of the ocean, because a kid, we'd visit the ocean, and I'd feel the hugeness of that ocean, the depth of it, the power. And there was just a knowing, this is what my life is about. And every night I'd go look at the stars and say, it's expansive nature, the sky. This is what my life is about. This is what's true. But a shiny car, that's can only do so much for you. A shiny car can only do so much. And I can remember, being a 16-year-old kid, and some of the other kids at school, they got the shiny car for their 16th birthday. And me, I inherited a old, rusty 73 VW Super Beetle. And I'd take it, I'd drive out in the country, I'd blare the music as loud as it could be and see if it could fill up the silence. And I would smile because it could not. It could not fill the silence. And so I allowed myself to be the hugeness and the form of music and trying to fill up the hugeness. I still do that to this day. Okay. A couple more questions here, but let's see. Nanette's here. Nanette has a question. I just asked that all questions are short, clear, and direct. Nanette, are you here?
Yeah. Hey.
Hi, Nanette.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can't
Sweet.
see you, but maybe I'll click.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe everyone else can see you. Let me see.
I just turned my face on, so.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Hey. So I guess my question is about how, in the face of a decision, so I've been in this contemplation of when it's time to leave my job, and I feel like God is I don't know, sending me some pretty strong messages that I need to what is the phrase? Shit or get off the pot.
Yeah, my teacher used to say that to me all the time, by the way, because I'd get on that pot and I would stall, just hang out there, stall.
Yeah, and I guess it feels like I have nothing lined up, and yet God is like, it's time to jump. And
yeah,
and then I go into a spiral of doubt, and I'm just having a hard time finding clarity in this decision. So I was hoping you could speak to kind of knowing when it's time to lean into something that's challenging and continues to be a space I'm learning from, and when it's time to leave something, even if it's good, and serving in certain ways.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Just gonna mute you here because I'm getting a little feedback. So this one was always incredibly tough for me. And again, like, that's a phrase I've never said, the thing you said about the pot, but my teacher used to say it to me often, and boy, it would drive me crazy. I think Fritz Perls used to say it from Gestalt therapy. He was like a crazy therapist back in the 60s and 70s. So the problem I have with, not this question, but maybe I'll say it differently. This world gives us an incredible rub, an incredible challenge. If anyone ever reads the tarot deck here, the tarot deck, the first card you put down is just like kind of like the gist, or the like what your question is about, what your life is about, and then there's this, what your path is about. And then the second card you put down is called the rub. And it's like you have this path before you, and then God gives you a challenge. And God does this with all of us, is God will give us all a gift, and then you will have a challenge. And so, say, for example, God gave us the gift of singing. I didn't get that gift, but let's just say God gives us the gift of singing. And then God gives us also the gift, or the rub, the challenge of fear. And so we're given this angelic voice. And then the rub is, well, we have this fear. And then that becomes our spiritual path, is facing the fear and giving ourselves permission to express ourselves fully and completely. And keep in mind, like, God is telling you to do one thing. You need to do this one thing. Like, again, let's say sing, or, leave this one job, move on to your next job. God is saying, I need you to do this. And there'll be this evolutionary pressure put into you, into your life, into your psyche, into your heart. And it will drive you, kind of crazy, kind of mad. And there is this spiritual utopian idea, which is you jump off the cliff and then all things fall into place and there's all these synchronicity and everything's taken care of. And I wish I could say that that was my life experience. My life experience was something quite different than that. So there's all this new age teaching that says, oh yeah, follow your truth and just, if you want to be a painter, just paint and the money will come and this and that. And again, I will be crystal clear. That was not my experience in any fashion. My experience was God gave me this great gift and this truth and this mission. And when I quit one thing and I went out into the world to do the other thing, no one showed up. I was not met with love and support and abundance. I was met with poverty, with emptiness, with lonely nights, with going into debt and all these things. And I kept looking at God and I say, God, what are you going to do? And God said, teach, go forward, share the good news of the Lord. And I'd say, okay, like I'm doing that, but there's no one here. And this went on for, I'd probably say this differently every time, but when I'm really truthful, I probably didn't make any supportive income from teaching for maybe 5-8 years. It was brutal. And what God did to me during those 5 and 8 years was taught me about trust and about faith, and asked me every day, like, do you believe in this truth? I say, yes, I believe in this truth, but I don't see the earthly support here, Lord. I do not see it. And one of the things I learned, just in a most practical sense, like there's all kinds of spiritual lessons, but in a practical sense, I learned, oh, this is an evolutionary world. And in an evolutionary world, things take time. And because they take time, it's important to honor transitions. And this is something that, again, with like New Age spirituality and with non-duality, we try to just bypass that human beings need transition time, which basically you need time to grow into the thing you're becoming. So the vision God is giving you is the truth. And one of the problems with God speaking to human consciousness, so that's God speaking to you, is God speaks in absolute terms and absolute visions into a relative being. Now, of course, you do have an absolute nature. Like from an absolute nature, I was born a spiritual teacher, but it took me a good 30-something years for that to come into fruition. Like I knew it ever since I was a kid. Like, and as a kid, I didn't even have the word spiritual teacher. I just had the word priest and I had the word monk. Like those were just words that were common. Like there wasn't, spiritual teacher wasn't a term. Like when I was a middle school boy, it was a monk or a nun. Like that's all I knew. And I just had this constant vision of this. But of course, it took time, and that was incredibly frustrating to my spiritual ego, which said, I've let go of the old life and I've stepped into the new life. And please, all you spiritual purists, don't take this the wrong way, but I was a young father and I was living in utter poverty. Like we're talking like, I was supporting a family of 3 with $20,000. I was saying, Lord, like, show me the money, like whatever that stupid movie was with whatever his name is. I can't remember his name. Tom Cruise, show me the money. It's like God, like, are you going to support me here? Will you support me, Lord? And financially, the response was no. I will not support you. For 8 years, I will not support you. But I will teach you about strength, and I will teach you about trust and faith. And it beat the life out of me, beat the will out of me, like all the egoic will and all the fear. And it made me really grapple with this question. And what it really brought up was, I was asking God to show me support, but what I saw was, during that 8 years, I saw, I had intense attachment to the vow of poverty, which is a stupid thing as a human being to have in 20, in whatever this century is. I had a vow of poverty that I was clinging to, and I didn't even know it. And so, it's possible to be a heck of a lot easier for people who don't come into this world with the wiring that I had. It was, I wanted to be a monk, and God made me a monk, and monks don't receive an income. And so it was silly. And monks stand last of the line, and monks don't eat. They starve. And so it brought up that. So that was a great lesson for me, is that I had a vow of poverty from previous incarnations that I brought with me. And so that, that was one of those things. It brought it into the light. I say, oh, okay, I see. That's why I can't support my family, is because, I have a vow of poverty that I'm clinging to, and I didn't even realize it. And then I also saw, I had a fear of being seen and a fear of being heard. And I didn't think that I should market for myself. And if you look at what marketing is, marketing for oneself, like if you're a healer or teacher or counselor or whatever, you have a business, it just means that you believe in you. It's you having faith in you. I thought marketing was something bad and dirty, and that money was bad and dirty. Money, I didn't see money as support. I saw it as bad and dirty, but I needed it and I hated it. And again, so what the transition did is it helped me clear up all this psychological veils and shadows that I had. And so if you are crystal clear in your consciousness, and God is telling you to do something, and you've already done your work, and then you launch, like oftentimes you're met, like people are just like, yes, finally, she's come forward, and we love her, and she has this great thing. And so, when people have done a tremendous amount of work on themselves and cleared out their veils and their psychological nature, they don't need much transition time at all to go from one career into this new offering. But people who, people like me, who were unconsciously clinging to the veil of poverty and or the vow of poverty, which is also a veil, but in this vow of being a nobody, and who had fear of being seen, it's like I needed a transition time, and that transition time needed to be 8 years. And I mean, it probably even bled further into that, to where I was actually experiencing like we'll just call it a living wage. And the reason I'm speaking so much here about money is because oftentimes that's what this comes down to. It's this question, like if we'd be real practical business people and just say, well, it's about money because we need money to survive here on planet Earth. But the real spiritual question is do you believe that God will support you? Like, do you have faith in your own gift? And when you have total faith in your gift, like total faith, and there's no egoic wound or shadow that's veiling it, then you just tend to make money. You tend to be supported, is a spiritual word. I'm totally comfortable with the word money, but 15 years ago, I thought money was a dirty word. So now I can say it with ease, but I can already, see someone's going to send me an email that says I'm a greedy something. But it comes down to this question of, do you have faith that God will support you? And when we really look at our inner psychology, like if we have any shred of unworthiness in our consciousness, there's a fear, the thought with unworthiness is, I'm unworthy of love, I'm unworthy of support, I'm unworthy of being seen, I'm unworthy of being heard. People won't really like this. A lot of spiritual people have this delusion, which I did too. The world doesn't want this. The world just wants shiny objects and new phones and technology and apps, and the world just wants distractions. And so I had that as a thought, like, people don't really want this. People want something else. And of course there's some truth to that, but like spirituality isn't on the New York, it's not publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And so it kind of shows where most of the money in the world is in buying junk, So I just had that thought, but I realized, what's at the heart of that thought was me just having a fear of rejection. Like, I was afraid to go out into the world and be rejected. And again, I want to be crystal clear here. For most of us, if we're going to offer our gift in the world, it's going to be similar. I don't want to compare ourselves too much to Jesus, but it'll be similar to the Stations of the Cross. You'll go out there and you'll say, ta-da, and maybe you'll have a little bit of success, maybe you'll have no success. Then you go home and you'll cry. And then the question becomes, do I go out to the world and say ta-da again? Like, I'm here to sing, I'm here to share my gift. And the brave ones, I consider myself brave, who just keep showing up, keep saying ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. And, again, like, I was humiliated so many times, as I first began to teach. So many times I was humiliated. I'd rent a space and nobody would come. And I'd sit in an empty room and I'd look up at God, and the grace of God would just pour down into me. I'd look at God and say, what is this? And God showed me, here is the absolute reality, Craig. All this grace, all this light, all this love. And I'd say, thank you for this absolute reality. Where's the relative reality, God? Because I need to, I have a family, I have these kids at home. I need new clothes, my God, I have to pay for their education and all their organic food and all that silliness, and I saw it really wasn't God withholding support. It was my attachment to my own veils. And so it taught me so many things, because I blamed God a lot in the beginning, like, God, what the heck? Why are you doing this? But when I was deeply honest, I saw, I don't believe in myself. That's why I'm not supported. Like, I believed fully in the light, but I had very little belief in Craig. I had very little belief that anyone would want to come and sit with Craig, that anyone would want to meditate, that anyone would want to open their heart, that anyone cared about spiritual awakening. I knew people in my town, which is an outdoor town, they cared about bicycles. Like they care about mountain biking. And tell you what, if I could sell spandex shorts, I would have been a millionaire. But that wasn't my path. It was not my path to sell super tight clothes for really skinny white guys. That was not my path. My path was to teach the good news. The good news. And then people began to trickle in. And God really would play some games with me where God would give me such good feedback from my first students. But again, no like zero financial support. And it just broke the will in me. It just broke me down in so many ways. And please, I hope no one thinks that I'm greedy in any way. I was just trying to support my family doing what I loved. And I believed in this. I knew what God had asked of me. And if you look at Jesus, like when he first taught in the temple, he was ridiculed by all the other rabbis. He did not go out and write a best-selling book and become a multimillionaire and then was on Oprah. That's not how it's been for most spiritual teachers throughout history. And just in general, for people who have a gift, there's a very specific archetypal journey, which goes something like, again, this. God gives you a gift, asks you to express the gift, and then God immediately lays on challenges. And through those challenges, the question is do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in the truth? Do you believe that the truth has a place here on planet Earth? Do you believe that this earth will support the truth? Do you have complete and utter faith? So if you look at the life of, say, Gandhi or Martin Luther King, they were beat down and bloodied, but they listened to their truth. And with them, it was just like, this is the way. This is the way. This is the way. And for me, I knew, this is the way. And it was hard. And I had to do all kinds of side hustles. And my teacher, of course, he was generous with me and he kept me busy, but he wasn't a rich man either. And so I worked for my teacher, and then there'd be times when I would literally go out and work on a ranch and be a ranch hand and bale hay. And I've told this story often, but I remember I was the first, couple of years of spiritual teaching. I worked on this ranch, and I was, just like some rich lady. Like her husband was an oil and gas person. He made he was a millionaire. They were millionaires. And these two dirty dogs in a gigantic house. And 2 days a week, I would clean and dust their house, basically clean up dog fur all day long. And the other days I was be out in the hot sun working the ranch. And there's this one day I was out on the ranch and baling hay. And anyone who's baled hay before, there's this horrific thing that happens when the baler comes along and starts to put the hay actually in bales. There'll be some snakes that get caught in it. And so there was a number of bales that had these snakes that were wrapped up in the baling twine and the wire. And when you ever kill a snake, it's really hard to kill a snake. They keep moving for hours after you can cut them in half and they're still moving. I can just remember the snake just out of his bale, sticking his tongue out all crazy. And I was under this big blue sky out in this field, hot as could be. And my job was to go out there and get those couple bales with those dead moving snakes in it and take them and get rid of them, put them in the burn pit or whatever. So the horses didn't eat them and get, there's a disease horses get. It's just, if I was a real cowboy, I'd know the name. It's called Blotch or something like that. Anyways, I remember just looking at God and saying, what the hell are you doing with, like, why am I out here in this field right now? You know, carrying these bales of hay with a snake that's like moving around and dead and bloody and guts. And it's just like, what the hell are you doing to me, Lord? What are you doing to me out here? And I just hear the word teach. It's like, and I'd like a guy just want to take my fist and just yell at God, like, you, and a list of profanities. Like, support me here, Lord, support me. God would say, I am supporting you. Support yourself, Craig. Do you believe in yourself? And the truth of it was no. I was being a child. I was being a brat and thinking that I should have had the life of Eckhart Tolle, where you wake up and you sit on a park bench for 2 years and somehow you become a millionaire the next year or something. And like, I never really cared about being a millionaire. I just wanted all the bills to be paid. Like, that's what being a millionaire was for me. It's just, I just wanted never to think about finances ever again. I never wanted to have to face that. I just wanted to be supported. And so this is the fear is, well, will I be supported? Do you believe in yourself? Do you trust in you? And the real question is, are you willing to do whatever it takes? If God has given you a directive, are you willing to do whatever it takes? And if you look at Dr. Martin Luther King, he did whatever it took. Gandhi did whatever it took. Jesus did whatever it took. Just like, look, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do it, even if it gets me killed. Even if it gets me killed. And I did whatever it took. And it was not pleasant. I never sugarcoat this. It was not pleasant. Now, for people who do have a pleasant journey, I think that's wonderful. Wonderful. You have different astrological, journey than I did. But, and Hollywood has a real similar kind of archetypal game. Like, if you go to Hollywood, if you go to any restaurant, it's where all the actors are. Not eating in the restaurant. They're waiting tables. They are waiting tables. And they'll wait tables for 15 years. And inwardly, they are saying, I know I'm a star. I believe I'm a star. I wait tables at night and I do auditions in the day until I get my big break. And I do that because I believe in myself. In myself. And the thing about this is when you believe in yourself and when you're tried, through the fire, then when you do teach or you offer or heal or do whatever the work it is you're doing, you can do so with great confidence. But when you wake up and everything is given to you and you immediately become a millionaire and an Instagram star and all that silly nonsense, like, the whole time there's insecurity there. But when you go through hell and you come out the other side and you realize, oh, this did not kill me. This did not burn me. It was really unpleasant. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, but I realize, I know in my bones, in my blood, that who and what I am has this immense gift, and this gift cannot be destroyed. So you have this unshakable faith. Unshakable faith. And any great teacher or healer, like, they know this. They have unshakable faith. And when they teach, you hear them. They're not just doing wishful thinking, oh, dream $1 million and you become a millionaire and get a Ferrari. And like, no, you know the truth. You live it. it's beyond undeniable. It's indestructible. It's indestructible. And the thing that I had, which was all this extra pressure, is again, like I was a young guy and I had a family to support. I had tremendous pressure on me. Like I'd laugh if most people, if you don't have a family, it's like, to me, it's like, hell yeah, jump off the cliff, go for it. Like, go for it. It's just you, if it doesn't work out, like just get a little side hustle, like no big deal. But people are like, oh, like, oh my God. And to me, it's like, go for it. Like, this is life, jump in. If I was Tony Robbins, what does Tony say? Like, take massive action, take massive action. And you'll find out right away. Like, oh, did I make a mistake? Okay, course correct. Like, course correct. But if we're talking about your gift, if you're walking in the direction of your gift, it is never a mistake to walk in the direction of your gift. But should you completely quit your job and sell all your savings, your 401k and all that stuff? Like, I mean, hell, I don't know. It depends on if the world's ready for you, if you are ready for you. And again, like there is a discrepancy in how God speaks to us. And again, this is a point that should be crystal clear, is there is a real discrepancy in how God speaks to you and how it manifests, say, tomorrow. Like God will give us, like I have been given immense visions of, what I'm supposed to offer in this world and this and that. And then the next day I get up and I start to do that. And it's like, okay, all right. Okay, there's a vision of, a crowd of whatever, this teaching reaching thousands of people. And the next day it's like, okay, I'm meeting with 2 people. All right. Okay, we're starting. Okay, we're starting. And keep in mind, God is frustrated too, because again, God is the absolute and God is also the relative. So this is the intersection of the absolute and relative, like in a real non-dual sense. This is the intersection. Even God herself is frustrated with this world and is putting immense pressure on this world to change. Like there is so much light right now on planet Earth. God's up there, she's pulling her hair out. They're still killing each other. They're still killing each other. They're still burning the planet. They're still burning the rainforest. They're still, and so God has this frustration. We have this frustration. And this is life here on planet Earth. This is life. And you'll see, like, if any of us ever Google, like, what are these people called? I'm going to use the word seers, like psychics who are on YouTube or whatever, or who teach at like those big psychic conferences. Like they have these massive visions. I heard about the coming of the new age in 1999. And then I heard about it in like 2004. And then 2011, going into 2012. And then it was going to be 2020. And then 2020, it's just like, and again, great gurus, sages, like people who see, myself, like you get these visions of what is possible. And then you get up and where the rubber meets the road, there's this, it's just like grind of life here on planet Earth. And keep in mind, in heaven, like the visions are like that. You think it and boom, it's there. On Earth, you think it and it's like, and then it's like one of those lighters, you ever had a lighter, you're trying to light a campfire and it's almost out of gas, but after like 35 tries and your thumb hurts real bad, then it finally lights. It's like, oh my God, thanks, my thumb's going to start bleeding now. And for me, that's how this world has been. That's how this world has been. And there's a part of me that just humbly honors This world honors evolution. It's like, oh yes, like having tremendous patience and compassion. And again, like I love massive visions. I have them often. And then it's okay. Like let's see. Like let's see. And the question is, are you living in alignment with that? Are you living in alignment with that vision to the best of your ability? And if anyone's about to quit their job, I tell them, well, like, is it possible that you keep your job and you just start this side gig as a side thing? Like if this was business school, we'd tell you, keep your job and start hustling on the weekends. And spiritual people think, oh no, God wants me to get rid of my job immediately. And like, God doesn't really care if you keep your job or not. Like, God is happy for you to have a stable income. What God wants to know is, are you giving everything? Are you giving everything to this vision? People say, okay, that means I have to give up my job and I have to give up my house and I have to give up my 401k and all that. And like, that's kind of like an old monastic idea. Really what God wants is, are you walking in that direction? Like, are you doing what you need to be doing? And for most of the people listening, it's I want to be a healer, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a light worker here on planet Earth. Okay. Like, can you do that on nights and weekends while you have your other job? Like, do you really have to quit your job? Now, if your job is making you sick and it just becomes apparent, like if you're working in a coal mine, it's like, yeah, you can't work in a coal mine. Like, this doesn't work. Doesn't work. But if it's just like a job that's, it pays the bills and just do the spiritual thing as a side hustle, then when you build it up, then you quit the job. That's like, if I was a graduate school professor of business, that's what I would say. But you have to find what's true in you. What's true in you. People have all these ideas about jumping off a cliff. Sometimes jumping off a cliff simply means you rent a space and you start teaching on the weekend. I mean, my first 3 years of teaching, I just rented space at the local Dharma center. I just taught there on the weekends. Just kept working for my teacher. And I was like, okay. Like, no big deal. I'll just keep showing up and I love it. And also getting the bills paid too. So you find what's true for you. I hope that was helpful. Yeah. Okay. I have another question. This one's something a little different. Hi, Craig. I'd like to hear your take on bipolar disorder. Is it possible that it is purely a transpersonal issue? It seems to be an individual crisis, expansion in the form of mania, and then the need to resolve the shadow that expansion brings forth. And that creates a depression. Having experienced delusions of grandeur in the past, I've come to see fear as protective. Can the superego exist in the absence of fear? That question has a lot in it there. I'll say this. That mental illness is such a strange thing, such a bizarre thing for a human to experience. And in a sense, everyone is mentally ill. So please, like, don't, I'm going to use the word mental illness loosely. If you believe and are deluded by your thoughts, that's mental illness. Pretty much the entire planet. And I'll put myself in there, include myself in that. We all suffer from mental illness. And sometimes we become manic, which is basically you get carried away with your own thoughts. And sometimes we get depressed. We just get swallowed up in the heaviness of life. And with bipolar disorder, it's having that to a big degree, a large degree, a heavy degree. And so we all have our struggles on planet Earth. Again, like I haven't met anyone who doesn't have some type of struggle. You know, I've met some of the greatest spiritual teachers here in the West, and knowing them personally, I realized, oh, look, they too have tremendous struggles. You know, a lot of them have health issues. It's like there's this common thing among spiritual teachers to get really sick with mystery illnesses and viruses. I currently am going to include myself in that club of just, gosh, okay. And you have to be real gentle and sensitive with the body. And it really makes sure that you don't overwork and don't overdo and don't get carried away. And so all of us suffer from some form of this. And with, I think what the questioner is saying here is, the last part of the question is that fear actually is protective against feelings of grandeur. And so I'll say this. Like when I look at you, my friend, like the one asking this question, you have an immense presence. Like what you are is immense. And so let's honor that. Let's honor that what you are is absolutely divine. Let's honor that. Let's come into the truth. Now with mania and delusions of grandeur, that's when we believe that we are incredible, that we are the Messiah and no one else is. But when we really wake up, we see, oh, I'm the Messiah, you're the Messiah, my dog's the Messiah, like the grass or the trees are the Messiah, like the whole world is the Messiah. Like when we really wake up, we see the Messiah is everywhere. But sometimes with bipolar disorder, and sometimes with non-dual people too, when they're first initially waking up, it's, I'm awake and I see clearly, I'm this bright light, I'm this spacious emptiness, and everyone else is asleep and they're all bad and they're all dirty and they're all peons. And it's like, okay, that's narcissism. That's crazy. That's not seen from the heart. That's a delusion. And so can fear be protective? Yeah, of course. But there's a different way, a different way, which is called humility. Humility is a lot different than fear. With humility, it takes great humility to see and know oneself as divine. And with that humility of an open heart and open eyes, you see it in yourself. You see how beautiful you are. And as you look around at the world, you see how beautiful the world is. And so there's no sense of, I'm great and they're not. Like with true spiritual awakening, you see that all is God. Now, in the initial stages of awakening, oftentimes it's the realization is, I am God and the world is asleep. So what did Ramana say? The world is an illusion. Brahman alone is real. And so most people get that. That's like really clear non-dual teaching. But a true non-dual teaching is the final realization. Brahman is the world. And so, my friend, it's through humility that we heal. And when we have something like bipolar disorder, my God, will that teach us humility? And my God, will that teach us mindfulness awareness? And my God, will that teach us so many things? Like, am I my psychological self? Or am I that which witnesses the psychological self? Like, what am I? What am I? What am I? And please, I'm not the biggest fan of medication. Like, like when I first started my counseling practice, often I was the person that got people off medication. But sometimes when we have something, like if we truly have bipolar disorder, it can be helpful to take medication. It can be helpful. Like that can be really helpful. In the same way that, if you have some kind of illness, like if you have strep throat, like it can be helpful to take penicillin. Like it can be helpful. And so when we have like a major thing going on in our mind, in our consciousness, like if we have trouble just meeting it with therapy and mindfulness and doing healing work and shadow work, like please, by all means, like if medication is helpful for you, like take it. Like that's really compassionate. It's kind for the body. Sometimes the brain chemistry is a little messy, and we need some support. We need some support. And so, don't be, of course, you need to talk to the right person about that. But sometimes people think that I'm against medication, and I'm not. Like sometimes medication is really helpful and just chilling everything out. On the flip side, we have a culture that's overly medicated, that's just popping pills right and left. And I certainly don't believe in that. But if you try all the natural means and you're getting nowhere and you've been to therapy and all that, it can be helpful just to take something. It can be helpful. Can the superego exist in the absence of fear? When there's no fear, there's no superego. Like there's no reason for the superego. But what happens is the superego dies through the awakening of the heart. That's when the superego dies. So I'll say it that way, through facing all the fear within you, within this world, then the superego begins to dissolve. When you face the fear and you realize, oh, like I have a choice. I can live from my heart, and I can live from truth and from Buddha nature. There's no reason to have a critic and a repressor in your consciousness any longer. Like so the path is a whole other topic, but when you walk through the doorway, no self, that's when the superego falls away and your mind will become quite silent. Silent. Okay. All right. Well, I think we did it. Let me just check the chat. Let me check Facebook real quick. I always keep forgetting about Facebook, friends. It is never a mistake to walk in the direction of your gift. Amen. All right. Yeah. I like that. Okay. I think we did it. So much love to all of you. And, I invite us, let's all just close our eyes for a moment and really welcome the energies of spring, of renewal, of new life. And for those of you listening in Australia, I encourage you to join us in welcoming spring. And just seeing new life, new possibility, new potential, an awakening of the spirit, an awakening of the heart. Walking forward with your head held high, relaxed and open in your big, fat Buddha bellies. Let them be big and fat, full of Buddha nature, just overwhelmingly full of Buddha nature, confident and happy and joyous, trusting in the movement of evolution, the movement of higher consciousness, trusting in the divinity of your heart and of this world. And just see what that does for your consciousness when you walk forward with your head held high, the big smile on your face, and a big, I might have a little fun here, jiggly Buddha belly. Big jiggly Buddha belly. So anyways, much love to all of you. Good night, everyone. We'll see you next time.